Bennett, I'm going to jump into my Route IQ presentation. Let me preface this a little bit with the way that I've been utilizing this. The Route IQ is part of the Zoho One package. So I'm using it slightly different than I will use it in the future. It's a really great tool for the type of traveling that I'm doing right now. Like I said at the beginning, I'm making sales calls all around North America, and it's kind of a daunting task to think, I have, maybe 25 potential customers in Dallas, Texas, and how am I going to plan on visiting them, and in what order, and where are they? And for anybody who's familiar, when you do open up the CRM on your phone, and you go to the accounts section, it does give you the option to hit a map button. When you hit that map button, it will typically map out everybody with a 100-mile radius of where your current location is. And that's a really great feature that I've used in the past. If I fly into a city, I can open that up and see where everybody's at. But this really takes things one step further. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I am now sharing my screen. Great. So I'm going to go here into my CRM, and when I open this up and scroll down, I have Route IQ, and we're going to open that up here. When you're setting up the Route IQ, there's a little bit of pre-work that needs to be done, and you have to decide what you're going to link to the Route IQ. Now, I chose accounts to link, and if I go to all accounts, it will give me the, you do have to, so that you have limits on what you can upload. You're able to load up accounts, links, contacts, pretty much any of these headings that you have in your system, you can link up, and it will, anything that has an address. You do have limits every month of what you can do, and you can pay extra to load up more. But that's really where it starts. Now, on this trip, I went ahead and you could see I have things listed by states. And I had to go through and kind of qualify things. So like we may have a Texas list, but not all of those are qualified that I want to be able to stop and see. So I've gone ahead and qualified things. So for example, here, I'm going to zoom in over Texas, where I recently finished a leg of my trip. And I'm going to pick Austin, Texas here. And the more I zoom in, you can see these are all the accounts that we have. And as I highlight over them, it'll bring them up. So the really cool feature about this is I can bring up that list. It's been vetted down to very qualified accounts. And I can come over here and I can grab this little lasso. And when I click on the lasso, I go ahead and I just make a circle around whatever groupings, and then it will select just the accounts in the grouping. And so once that's done, I can go ahead and create. Now, I have the option to go through and unclick some of those if I decided, this one I really don't want. And I guess where this pertains most is in a city that has a larger amount of accounts for us. I have found out that our limitations on this are 16 accounts, 16 stops per day, I guess, or per route that you're going to make. That's a little frustrating. It'd be nice to have an unlimited amount, but I get it. They have to kind of draw some lines somewhere. So, for example, when I was in Dallas, I think we had 24, and I had to unselect some of them in creating this route. So next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put WIM back on there. I'm going to go ahead and create this route. A couple of things happen here while I'm creating the route. It gives me an opportunity to name it. And I'm going to put in Zoho test as the naming. Timing, I always leave it flexible. Now, if you want to really dig into this and schedule some timing of your appointments, that's really great. But for what I'm doing, I'm just popping in on people, and I'm not necessarily setting any times. and then I can choose a date that I'm going to do this. Now, this is really helpful because a lot of times when I'm out on the road, I will sit here and I will route out the next 3 days and put them in as dates. And when I show you on the phone how that works, it's really helpful to have a date attached to it. The next thing you have to do is you have to pick a start and an end point. So you can see Waco is popping up and bouncing all over here, and I'm going to leave that as my start point. And I'm going to say I want to end the day somewhere else. So what you would end up with is like a blank search, and these are all the different places that I have put in here as places that I want to end the day at. And I'm going to show you how to create one. You can add a favorite place. Now you could type in a full address, or we can type in a city name. So I'm going to say San Antonio. So as I start typing, it brings up some options for me. So if I started in Waco, I'm going to say I want to end the day in San Antonio, Texas. You can see in the background there, it brings up a map. And then I have to enter a custom name for it. And I'm going to call it San Antonio. And I'm going to hit save. Now it adds it to that list that I have of start and end locations. Some of them I've entered as hotels that I've stayed in, and some of them are just generic cities. So I'm going to go ahead and select that as my endpoint. And you can see now it moved the endpoint down here. I go ahead and I click the create button, and it goes ahead and it creates this route. And I will tell you that these routes have been fantastic. They are so good in the way that this system gets routed from start to finish. I've had routes where I started the day at a hotel in a city, and I wanted to end the day at that same hotel, and it routed me around. And it routed me around the busy traffic based on the times of the day, which I don't even know how it does it, but it does, and that's pretty neat. So I've created the Zoho test, and I can open up here my list of routes. And these are routes that I've created, places that I am going. Matter of fact, I'm heading up to Santa Fe today, and I'll be getting to that route. But if I open up the Zoho test route, it brings me right back there.